I think for me, it was just a matter of getting my resume and everything together. For my specific internship, I had to, like, they asked me certain questions, so I had to come up with answers to the questions that they had. It was part of the application process, and um, I think it was brought up earlier by Joshua that other people can really help you in like any of those departments. So I had like my mentor at the time look over the questions that I sent in, look over my resume, because they can always catch things that you might not see. So that was really helpful. And then once I got my initial interview, I reached out to a friend of a friend of a friend, who I knew worked at the company. And I asked her about her interview process there since I knew it was several interviews before you got the internship or the job. And so I had some one-on-one conversations with her once I was getting further along in the interview process, which was really helpful. So I would, and she's an alumni of DePaul, so I would definitely recommend looking at people who had been in the same hiring process as you.
Um, Through my experience interviewing and applying at Center Focus Therapy, I made sure I had like a strong cover letter, and then during the interview, which wasn't too extensive, luckily, I just made sure to synthesize between what was on my resume, what was in my cover letter, and then kind of build off of it with whatever questions they gave additionally. But yeah, it was overall a really easy interview process, luckily for me. So yeah.
Yeah, in terms of preparing to apply, I think the first step is organization. So whenever I'm preparing for a season of applications, I go through and like just start an Excel document with like all the links to all the pages for the application, due dates, people you need to contact, in terms of the process, stuff like that, and everything's organized. Past that, once you've had everything gathered, such as your resume, cover letter, whatever you need, letters of reference, stuff like that, and you go on to the interview stage, I say that it's a lot easier said than done, but calming those nerves really helps. Having a genuine conversation with someone is always tough when you really want that job. But also what I like to think about is all the stuff that I couldn't put on my resume, right? Because your resume only says so much about you, but there's gaps between each of those events. So in the back of my head, as I'm, for instance, waiting in the waiting room for a Zoom call, I'll be thinking about, well, what's on my resume? What can I add to that when they ask me about that stuff? And yeah, in the past, like for the Adler, I also tried looking up who I knew who was going to interview me. So I looked up what they were doing, what their research was like, some of their past positions. It didn't really end up coming up in the call, but it always helps to amass as much information as you can in that situation. But yeah, organization honestly is the crux of every application process. The more organized you are, the less stressful it is. And honestly, the better your application comes out.